She was wanting to return back to the workforce. So she needed assistance with CV preparation, that type of thing. I received a very thorough brief from the Cancer Council, just about her background, what she was after and her history. So it really prepared me for the phone call that I was about to make. Jacki had a work history in quite senior roles. It was interesting that she needed assistance with just getting back with that, updating her CV, just getting out and meeting with people. I contacted Jacki by phone and just introduced myself and advised her what I was there to help her with. I set up a secondary phone conversation because I just wanted to keep it short and simple initially. So we had that second phone conversation where I spoke a bit more about her background, what she was looking for, and just generally built the rapport with her. So we organised a face-to-face meeting. I actually organised it at a place that she was comfortable with. I did pick up on the initial phone call her reluctance, and she was quite nervous when we met. I had a look through her CV whilst we were there, had a bit of a chat about that. I got her permission to share that information with one of the external recruiters that I have a relationship with, and then organised another meeting. But I actually facilitated the meeting and I was there with her because through our conversations, I actually saw her confidence wasn't quite there. It was quite alarming to see somebody from such a very strong professional background turn to somebody that couldn't quite feel confident in front of me initially.
Another challenge Jacki faced with her change of role was managing the gap in her CV. It's not always necessary to disclose to a potential employer the reasons why that gap has existed. Jacki was able to look at a move from one state to another and encompass that in a way in which it made sense to an employer that she would want to take some time out and get familiar with her new surrounds. I think Jacki's case highlights that we take for granted that people who have been in the workforce before go through something traumatic with their health and then naturally just slip into going back into the workforce. Confidence is an extremely important part of the recruitment process. If you don't feel comfortable with what you're doing, it's very difficult to relate with recruiters or potential employers in an interview situation and really give them the confidence that you know what you're talking about.
What actually happened was we had the meeting with the recruiter. We worked with her. She was talking to different people, and through her own networks, she actually gained full-time employment with one of the government bodies and is currently working, so very happy with that. And she's also going to be a grandmother again. He was undergoing treatment for tongue cancer. He had half of his tongue removed with surgery, and he was unable to return to his role in a call centre because of his speech being affected. With the tongue surgery, it actually slowed him down with his speech. So he had to really articulate exactly what he was after. He basically had to learn how to talk again. He was actually starting to look at career changing. So we had the conversation around what is it that he enjoys doing. Call centre, it's always timed, so it had put him under undue stress and pressure. And we wanted to find something that was looking at his transferable skills. And at that point, he actually told me that he'd just enrolled for a private investigation course. So we had a bit of a chat about that and just around probably marketing himself. So I started off with his CV, we went through that, I revamped it. So he's just about ready to finish his course. He's also aligned himself with some referral partners out in the industry. So fingers crossed, he's just about to step into his new role.
Peter's case highlights beautifully the challenge we have very often with clients or candidates. They forget to give some thought to the transferable skills that they have from other industries or other roles they've done in the past. They tend to underestimate the value of those skills or don't see them as important, and often it's a really great way to help open their minds to what other new roles they could be doing, what other new directions their careers could be going in. And once you tap into that and they start to see the possibilities, suddenly the limited choices that they may have thought they had before become a lot broader. So Luke's case came to us, and in his instance, it wasn't himself who was going through treatment, it was his wife. So his challenges were a little bit different. Obviously, his employment was being impacted by the fact that he needed to provide her support, getting her to and from her treatments, being there to look after her and keep running the household whilst she was going through what the medications were doing to her system. We did think about how we could solve that problem a little bit more laterally. He was investigating and thinking about doing a taxi driver licence, which when we talked it through, we thought that might actually be the best option for him and give him the most flexibility. It meant he could do work day or night depending on how his wife's treatments were going. He did complete his taxi licence and is working as a taxi driver and has that flexibility he needs. She had an extremely strong career as a librarian and archivist, and was having a lot of difficulty in finding work in that industry now that her treatments were in a stage where she could look at returning to work. Her CV was very long. We had to do a lot of work with rewording that and trying to bring it down to something that could be looked at more generally for other roles. She was interested in doing roles in reception or administration. And with her background and some of the courses that she had gone on, her CV was quite intimidating for a few employers. So we had to work through not only her feeling like she was lying on her CV if she took courses out, but also had to try and reduce the wording and length of her CV to make it more palatable to roles that were perhaps a lot lower than where she had worked previously. Whilst we were doing that, we were also opening up discussions with some external recruitment agencies who specialise in those types of roles she used to work in before, just in case there were roles coming up in the market. But they were also very aware that she was looking at other administrative roles as well. Financially, she needed to find work quite quickly. She had bills to pay and that was causing her some stress. So we were able to find her some casual work and some temporary work in administration roles, and hopefully one day she will return back to her career of choice. So another tip as a volunteer would be to really understand that the clients, whilst they may have some issues around finding new employment that relate to their illness or their treatment, there are some candidates that just really may not have had the type of skills to make them a success or get them the type of roles that they're looking for in their career anyway. They may have issues with their education or their qualifications that prevent them moving into the roles that they aspire to, even outside of what's happening with their illnesses and their treatment. So whilst you can help them as best you can to find the work they're looking for, sometimes it just doesn't work out that way.
Some of the reoccurring issues that I have seen with the case that I've been dealing with, the main one that comes out is the confidence. You know, the lack of confidence that they have. And with a previous case that I did have, she was actually going to cancel our face-to-face meeting. It was that bad. And it's not just the confidence, it's also around where do they start? You know, how do I get my CV to what it is that people want to see it at? Introducing them to the networks, because a lot of them have been in the same role for some time. So they just don't know how to prepare a CV. Another important one is behavioural interviews. Everyone's doing behavioural interviews these days. Now, if they've been in a role for a significant amount of time, They've probably never been through it. So I do sit down with them and do a little bit of role playing. We get together and have a bit of a chat about the jobs that they are looking at. So what are the key elements for those roles, and what are some of the questions that may come out, so they can prepare themselves for that actual interview. It is a stressful time for anyone, and for somebody that's just been through treatment wanting to get back into the workforce and dealing with things like, they do have chemo brain where they forget things. So giving them the tips on how to remember those things, letting them know that it's okay to take notes and take them with you, and reminders. So there's some certain things that we do actually work with.